Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. Mopar Mondays, 7 p.m. Got away from work at a decent time. And it is hot. I just did a video last night I'm not going to talk about because I never know what order things will actually get released in. And I'm not going to botch that. It always winds up screwing me over. But needless to say, I'm staring at a fan. And I had it on last night. And I did a quick check and I thought, yeah, I don't really hear it in the clip. Granted, playing back from the camera, you don't really hear things super well. Well, it turns out it was there. So I'm going to do you a favor and I'm just going to sweat to death in here for the next little bit while we cover this tool haul. So what we got going on, Harbor Freight over the weekend had a deal. If you are not an Inside Track member, see also me, but you spend over $29.99, you get a free bucket, which is basically like a $5 value, 4 to 5, somewhere in that range, right? And there was actually something with a coupon that didn't have an extremely crazy limit on it that I thought, hey, you know, that's actually something that I've kind of needed for a while. And it is not what you see behind us, but it does tie in with it. Now, this is not following our color schemes. These are kind of like overflow. There's very strange things that happen with this lowest end of the Pittsburgh impact sockets. Are they the greatest impact sockets in the world? No, but they're functional. They do have the lifetime warranty, so you've got that in your back pocket. But you'll note what we have going on here. This is an orange anodized aluminum ulcer rail, and it's just not really, you know, like you need to have the rail like anchored somewhere in your box. It's not good for transiting. You know, like if you just wanted to grab the whole strip and you're going to go throw it out on your buddy's car on the driveway, you're probably spilling stuff. Behind it, I've sacrificed an Ernst Rail for the SAE, even have it labeled and everything. And it's kind of a situation where I just need that rail back. And we're going to get to that stuff at the end. But the reason I'm talking about this, we've got obviously half-inch drive impacts, metric in the front, SAE in the back, and they're deep, right? So, makes sense that we would need the shallows. And if I bring this up, I've got a bucket right here. It's kind of hard to fit this thing, but it was my freebie. And inside I've got two items. You can probably guess what they are. Give you some time to think about it if you really need it. And, your time is up because this is what we got. We picked up the Pittsburgh half-inch drive impact socket sets in shallow. So essentially kind of completes these sets. Again, we'll get kind of to the storage stuff here in a little bit, but I think there's some strange things. It's been a long time since I bought these, but if I do this, rip this last metric one off, you'll see, eventually, I don't want you to have to take my word for it, that's a 32, right? I'm not just saying that. It's a legit 32 millimeter socket, which is kind of cool, coming from a really reasonably priced set to get a socket that large. Catch is, this little shallow set does not have a 32. Basically, item number 64385, we'll start over here in SAE land. We're going to be a half-inch drive Pittsburgh 13-piece impact socket set. And it's not terrible, but it does something kind of strange that we're going to get to. So your 13 pieces are as follows: 3/8, 7/16, half, 9/16. That's your bread and butter right there. For 3/8 crossing over, I suppose. 5/8, 11/16, 3/4, 13/16, 7/8, 15/16, 1 inch. Follow along with me. 1 1/16. You think, that's good. 1 1/4. If you're like me, and you use 3/4 hardware quite a bit, that's probably not a heavy head, right? So you would need a socket that would be somewhere not in this set. It would be 1 1/8, 1.125, right? It's not there yet. If I drop back over here to our Ernst Rail that's got the SAEs on it, tilt this metric one forward, it's kind of hard to see. The sockets get so big, but we have 1 1/8. This is a terrible view, by the way, of this socket, because if you recall back to these videos, the SAE set has like this hyper gloss varnish stuff on it. And it's really strange because the metric don't. It makes no sense to me. I think that was something we might have like ordered in at one point in time. Don't hold me to that. It's been a while. But it's weird. It's very strange discrepancies there. Now, what I want to do real quick, not scientific, but just kind of get things going. Let's see how many pieces we have. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Since I've painted, test run painted some stuff there, that's not very deep, it's complicated. That starts with 7/16. Okay, this starts with 3/8. So this has a 3/8 shallow, but it doesn't have 1 1/8. And this has 1 1/8 deep, and you don't have the 3/8 deep. So I don't really know what they're doing, to be totally honest with you. Maybe they think you like cover all your sizes over time, but like an inch and 1/16, you know, maybe like sacrifice one of those two or something. I don't know. I'd love to know like who makes these decisions and how, like what is their logic, if any, behind this stuff. You know, like I totally get, you know, like maybe you're thinking how people buy this are on a budget, you know, let's not give them 3/8, 7/16 deep sockets, let's give them to them in shallow, but then on deep, let's give them, you know, like two bigger sizes, you know, 1 1/8, 1 1/4 type. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things. I don't have an explanation for it. Metric land here, let's just jump right in. We've got part number 64387. This one, you're going to have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And then you get your first skip of 18, which again, you can kind of cross over if you need to. More than likely it'll work for you. 20 is not accounted for. 21, 22, skipping 23, 24, and 27. So if we come here, we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So what's going on? It's really hard to see these. Again, that's one of the disadvantages, and man, this rail's sketchy picking it up. So you get to 10, and then you've got a 13. You're jumping and skipping 11 and 12, which this included. What does that mean? That means something else has taken the fall. We then have a 15 and a 17. They give you the 16 here in the shallow village, all right? We've got an 18 deep, and then you've got a 19 deep and a 19 shallow. You don't have a 20 on either side, which, you know, that's kind of understandable. 21 and 21 are accounted for. 22 is in both sets. They didn't give you a 23 either place. 24 you've got in both places. 27 is accounted for in both sets. And then just like they ditched sort of the small 11 and 12 that you might not use often, the deeps get a 30 and a 32. So that's kind of the logic there. So my advice, if you pick, say you just got the shallow, or maybe you just got the deep on a deal or something. Oh Lord, there's something up there that nearly fell. It would have been really bad. But whichever one of these you buy first, if you think like, man, they skipped a size that I need, or, you know, I really would have used that size, pair it with the opposite set. So if you get the shallow first, wait for the deep to go on. If you get the deep first, wait for the shallow to go on. Maybe put a coupon on them, type of a thing. Again, it's kind of crazy to not have like matching sets, but I guess like stretching like the budget theme. But then you run into a situation, you know, like what if you need a 32, but you don't have clearance for a deep socket? You've got enough space for like your, you know, your ratchet head, or in some cases maybe like a stubby impact, you know, if you're working with air, and there's no way in the world you can fit that deep socket, but you could totally, you know, snake in with, you know, about like a inch of space left if you had a shallow socket. I don't know the logic. I can't explain it. I guess you can then go in, and if you need to, or if there's set sizes that you really need in both that aren't accounted for, you can try to make it happen that way. But the big thing that I like about these, aside from the price, which is cheap, I've been using the 3/8 drive at work to kind of get like a feel for them, test life cycles. They're about like they've always been. Again, I'm just doing grade 2, like lag screws, nothing crazy, nothing important with them. That's why it's a good like sacrificial test lamb, if you will. And they're showing signs of wear. Great sockets, you know, like Proto and Wright, they show signs of wear too. Would they show signs of wear this fast with such soft fasteners? Probably not. Just being straight up honest with you there. But, you know, I mean, where you've got the wear, you know, they're still fitting, so it's not like they're, you know, rendered useless or null and void or anything. But the shining point with these, and it's easiest to demonstrate here, they are a thinner wall. Like with half-inch drive, I take that very seriously. 3/8 quarter drive impacts, you can get by with cheap stuff. But half-inch drive, that's when I start like wanting, you know, a thick wall slug of in this socket. You know, it's going to help me get something seized off type of a situation. That's all well and good, but, you know, as great as Proto and Wright and, you know, your other big brands are, there is a downfall. When you've got a fat sidewall here, you oftentimes, it's not that you can't fit over the fastener. You know, if the fastener was off on the bench somewhere, it's a situation where, like, let's say you're doing a cylinder head, right? And you've got your head bolt here, and then you've kind of got like a little concave area. Your fat socket's not going there, right? You can go in and you get your chromie, and it'll drop down just fine, but you're thinking like, man, that chromie's, you know, it's flaking a bit. I don't really want to put it on my impact, tear it up. You need a thin-walled impact. Thin-walled impacts you will pay a premium for. You know, you've got things like the Astro Nanos, which we've showcased recently, but you rarely are going to have like a deep socket with a thin wall. They're usually like specialty stubby stuff. But to get a really thin wall, it's a specialty socket. Now, everything I like to use, you know, I prefer chrome moly. Chrome vanadium is typically what you have with a standard chrome socket. It's what you see here. Like, these impact sockets, especially the SAE ones in that gloss, they are thin wall. Okay. Again, that's not ideal, but in certain situations where your awesome Wright socket would do a great job if it could fit, it simply does not fit. You can't come in and torch out, you know, a section of your cylinder head. You can't cut into the block. I mean, you can a little ways, but I mean, you're going to get to a point, you hit a water jacket, you know, dice up a sealing surface or something. So there is a place for them, and if you're on a budget, because like I said, I mean, the Koken, I'm sure they make a beautiful thin-walled sockets on a wish list. A set of them's like $230, $250, you know, so keep that in mind. That's one of those things that you would buy, like, hey, you know, I really, for this job, have to have a thin 17. I remember situations, a thin 19 would be good. You know, if you're working on old stuff, it's like, man, you know, if I would have had, you know, a thin-walled 9/16, it would have made my life easier. Go about it in that manner. But for balling on a budget, lifetime warranty, sale price, coupon, what have you, the Pittsburgh cheapest line, chrome vanadium, you get a thin-walled impact. So, I mean, do with that information what you will. But right here, let's just highlight again. Obviously, I've not mentioned it, but these are 6-point sockets. You come in, you see them. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with these. They're just not going to be like your cream of the crop. All right, that's sort of how to look at them. But for the price point, I don't think you can go wrong. Now, the lifetime warranty, that's great, but you got to think, when are you going to break this? When are you going to wear it out? It's never going to be at the last thing you do at the day, and you're going to drive home by Harbor Freight. There's very few people that are going to have that luck, or even that geography in relation to a store. Take that stuff into account. Maybe you've got a killer set, you love your ADVs, or you're a snap-on person, but you've shattered sockets, you've worn them out, you've walled them out, you get to a point where they fall off the impact, you know, your drive-ins don't fit the fasteners good. Consider these as a backup option. You know, you might not be proud to use them if you're that type of a guy, but it's a situation, if your 9/16 is basically fitting, you know, the next half size up and it doesn't any longer grab the 6 corners of the bolt, you got a situation where you can come in and you can go to, you know, your backup, which you didn't spend much money on, and then, you know, a couple days later when your rep shows up, got your socket warranted, you're home free. But it's little things you got to think about, and that can kind of help you stretch your buck a little bit farther. But they claim high visibility markings. That's arguably not true. These are not laser etched. You don't have anything. They don't color them for you. The consistency of the finish seems to be the same as the metric set I already had. There are 3 or 4 of each of these when I was in the store, and I hand-picked the ones that I thought looked the best. So that kind of explains that a little bit. I didn't see anything as egregious as those glossy nut job SAE deeps we have back there. But same thing here with the SAEs. Really nice finish out. These actually seem to be a thicker wall. I don't know what's up with these. I don't know if they were El Cheapo cast-offs, but they're super thin wall, which again, yeah, that's fine with me because that's sort of what I got them for. But they're honestly, I mean, not terrible sockets. Don't expect the world from them, but just be aware, you know, you will wear them out. You will need to replace them if you're using them with any frequency. But yeah, what I'm going to do is, these are quite difficult usually to open up. I'm going to turn a fan on, number one. Number two, I'm going to open these up, get them loose. We'll take a look at the biggest sizes probably in each, and I'll kind of walk you through what we're going to do for the storage. Alright, we're freehanding this. There's probably fan noise. Sorry, but also not sorry. It's hot in here. Metric set right there, waiting to extract them. I was ripping them off with pliers. I always forget which way is best with which style. I was looking for something to cut. There wasn't anything. Turns out, just putting that little Vera in there. Let's see if I can one-hand it for you. And basically, if we can get down far enough. See how easy that was? Hopefully that wasn't in the frame. But yeah, that's the way to do these, is just, you've got the little, you know, ball retention hole, come in through that with a tiny screwdriver. Or you can rip them off with pliers like I was doing for a while. Didn't mar the finish on any but one. But what I'm wanting to do with these, I have that Hansen socket tray, and I like it for what it is, but it is not for me. I'm not a fan of that. I've used them at work for a while, you know, years, because that was mainly like what you could get. Number one, I go left to right, so I want 3/8 over here, 1.25 over there. That's debatable, you know, how you prefer it. You see the glaring weakness in this set is there's no 1.1/8. I'm not making that up. Like, we legit don't have one of the 1/2-inch drive sockets I would use the most, but everything else is populated. The only real issue is with these, you know, like, I also prefer to have the business end up on this tray. You can kind of do that, but it fits better, you know, and it's designed actually to have it kind of dump around this little pedestal. So Pittsburgh, to their credit, is stamped the way I want them to be. They're flipped now, but to the credit of the Hansen Tray, with that white offset, I think black might show up better, but the white, you know, it's fine, gets the job done. You can easily see what should be there. With the exception of this does not fit our 1/2-inch drive socket, right? If you can tell, like, it rides down, but it doesn't seat to the bottom of the plastic. It kind of gets hung up, whereas like this one goes down. The problem I've got here, that says 12. That doesn't say half. I'm trying to remember. There were some funny, egregious mistakes on the previous set. I don't really remember what they are. I should have 5/16 hardware somewhere around here to test it, but I'm wondering if that's what the issue is. I don't know for sure, but basically I wanted to show you how to get them off again, just to kind of replicate what we can do. If you can come in here underneath the socket and go down and then just kind of fish your way up, you basically can do that. Or like I said, if you prefer violence, you can rip them off. Well, you do whatever you feel like doing with your cheap sockets. But I'll go ahead. I'm debating leaving these because I don't have where I want to put them. And so I very well may do that, and we'll just kind of reference what we have in SAE land. So let me get the Ernst ones, the deep, off, so you can kind of see these, and I'll highlight another issue with this tray, which I think is mainly more an issue with the socket, but we'll come back and take it from there. Alright, so here we are, fans back off for your viewing enjoyment and my suffering. Text messages right on cue, can't seem to ever get more than like 20 minutes, it's uninterrupted. So this is where we're at. Things stack up just like this. As you can see here, the glaring weakness is between the sets. You've got 3 pegs empty. You don't get a 3/8 deep, but you get a 3/8 shallow. In shallow land, you don't get an 1.1/8, but we have it in deep. We also have the 1.25 in deep. So fairly comprehensive, kind of strange, but it is what it is. If you think, well, hey, put those on. Well, this is part of the problem with the set and this peg in particular. Man, okay, so sorry, getting lots of stuff that interrupts us. You can't do it. It just simply will not fit over that, and it's because of the way these aren't finished out. If you look down the barrel of that, you're going to see where there's kind of like a drill bit, right? And right here you kind of see that open area. Whereas if we come to, say, the 1¼ inch, you've got just your open square area. Okay, if we take it down to, say, 15/16, you can see, you look down the barrel of your 1/2 inch anvil and there's really not much going on. Like, it's kind of been machined out, right? The broaching is totally different. So to make these fit, we're going to have to modify them, which means either you shave that down and you're going to run into your inch. You know, if this is like small sizes where the numbers were centered, we could just sand it down. 1⁸, 1¼ inch, they take up all that real estate on the top peg, and that's what you want as your size marking, especially when you're having to flip the sockets to make them fit. So we're going to have to like come in and just egg that out. And how are we going to do that? With a drill. Haven't quite decided how I'm going to chuck that thing up. Might have to be easy if we had a mini lathe here, but we don't, so we'll have to get creative. But anywho, that'll essentially populate this thing. Will that bother you? Probably. Will this bother you? Yes, this will bother me more. Why? Because I actually use 3/4 hardware. The 3/8 over there, it would be handy for some things, but like, truth be told, I can live without that for a 1/2 inch drive. I mean, that's basically just ticked off and you're going to shear the head off of something, right? So, moving on though, what I want to do is let's just go to the 1¼ inch since we have it. If we had a 3/4 heavy hex, you know, we could utilize this guy, but you can see, I mean, like I said, these are not the world's greatest sockets, but when you consider I got this whole 13-piece set for $16 on sale, it's kind of a win. I'm spinning this around looking for the size markings, and if you look through the camera, it's going to be very difficult to find. You can finally see CRV, and if I tilt it back, you may not realize it, but you are actually, let me raise this up to confirm, looking at your high visibility size marking. Their words, not mine. If I zoom in, it's a little less egregious, but it's just not good, right? That's hence why you see some orange paint on some of these, and I was kind of testing that out. But essentially what you have here is the 1-1/4, and then you've got Pittsburgh, and CRV looks to be stamped like a little bit deeper. This is like excessively shallow. They tried to get fancy and make it like 3-dimensional, you know, I should say like outlined letters. Like if you look at the CRV, see how that's just like singular stuff, same with Pittsburgh there. But then with this, it's windowed, and then they've got, instead of just like a 1, that's, you know, like a true stamp, they have it like outlined. That's where they went wrong there. Would that look better if it was properly done? Yes. Would that be easier to see if it was properly done? Yes. The problem is it's not properly done. And therefore you'd be better off just having like a traditional etching. So, but like I said, I mean, it's got kind of everything you'd want. You know, it's a situation, you're not going to round it off because you've got these little recesses here. For the money, it's hard to go wrong, especially if this is kind of as like a backup / specialty set. Again, I'm referencing this and coming from someone with like industrial style sockets. So your protos, your rights, even some of your higher end like mid-tier stuff that's going to have a fat sidewall. These will serve a different purpose because those sockets, as great as they are, their shortcoming is clearance. They're going to handle the fastener fine, but if they can't get to the fastener, they're useless to you. This will do that. You don't have to put a chrome on, run the risk of it chipping, peeling, getting cut or injured or sliced and diced, or exploding the socket. Which, not to say that I don't think these will do that. That's certainly a possibility with anything chrome vanadium. I don't care what engineers say. I don't care what product teams say. They can have all the fancy charts and graphs they want. I was brought up old school, and if you're using impacts, you run moly. So, vanadium, yeah, that's fine for your standard chrome stuff, but not really the most desirable thing here. Now, that said, let's come in and we'll just go 15/16 is always tempting. But we'll go 9/16, I guess, right? And we need these because that's what we're actually talking about. That has a fatter sidewall, right, than some of these does. It's kind of weird how that works, especially if I grab this deep one. Like, I'm not going to sit here and break out calipers or anything, but I think your eye can tell you. And it's not just the gloss paint. Like, this is considerably thinner than this guy. Case in point, like if you put these two drive end to drive end, Like, look at that. That's all extra meat between these two. You'd really want to center it, but just for visual, going wall to wall here, there's that much of a differential, and that is all in your wall. So this is almost like it's a considerable step up. This is almost like not bad and defeats the purpose of being a thin wall. But these deep ones, for whatever reason, in this high gloss, they are, it's almost like they took their rainbow colored sockets and slapped some black on them and just put them out there, but for a cheaper price. So with that said, I mean, that's about it. I don't know how much ad nauseum we can cover these things. Am I sitting here going to tell you these are the best impacts you can buy? No. Am I going to tell you they're the best deal you can buy? Not overall. Now, in terms of like a pretty comprehensive, like 13 sockets for 16 bucks, lifetime warranty, there is a merit to that, especially, you know, if you're just getting started or funds are super tight. Maybe, you know, you lost everything was stolen, flooded, what have you. You know, there's situations where this could be your gateway to get you by, and then serve as a backup, serve as a thinner walled impact set. It could go easily, you know, if you don't want to put good stuff in your truck, you're afraid it'll get stolen or lost, or, you know, side of the road type of stuff. That's another place where these come in very, very handy. But yeah, that is a look at the SAE set. Again, the metric, you'd essentially be looking at the same thing. Just, you know, we've got the 12 here, and we've got a 12 in the metric set too. So we got two 12mm sockets here. So I should have off camera grabbed it. I know I've got 3/8 stuff sitting around all over the place. This is going to be quarter. Yeah, I know somewhere, if I wasted enough of our time, we could find something. But everything I'm looking at right now is smaller or larger than 5/16 that we need for this. Assuming it's really a 1/2-inch socket, right? I mean, it could be a 12 for all I know. But yeah, it's there, so it is what it is. But yeah, like I said, we'll have to modify this. But this tray, I don't want to say stupid tray, I know a lot of people like them. They're fine. It's just I prefer other things, you know, the, you know, Ernst across the board, MTS really across the board too even. But it's a situation where these do a nice job, assuming the sockets fit, which I think this is more of like a Pittsburgh and Harbor Freight finish out issue than it is a knock on Hansen. Just overall, I want this oriented opposite of that to be top tier for me. I would like to see handles on it, you know, something to kind of get it off the mat. This will get heavy, you know, I mean, like, it's certainly capable of doing it, but it would be nice if we just had a little lip, kind of like the Socket Boss tray. The pegs, yes, they break off. Yes, they wear down. Obviously, you know, if you're like working outside all the time, or you just leave your stuff out for 6 hours of the day and you're in a sunny environment, that's gonna, you know, wear things down a little quicker. But the main thing when these pegs break, it's usually a deal like you're in a rush, you lift the socket up and you pull, and it's never a deal where you're like grabbing the 1 1/4 over here. It's like you need the 9/16, and all that weight is on this tray, and subsequently that becomes the weak point type of a thing. But they are fairly robust. I mean, the pegs do break, but it generally takes time, or, you know, user error, if you will, just kind of rushing around. What I plan to do for the metric stuff, honestly, I think I'm going to get a green tray, and we're just going to use it. That way, you know, anytime we're doing like organization videos, I can pull them out. We can showcase them versus other options. Because again, like I said, a lot of people love this style. It is, I mean, to Hansen's credit, made in the USA, pretty good, solid little tray, just not my cup of tea, right? You know, like, there's lots of people that like Mustangs and Miatas and Corvettes and stuff, and they're just not for me, and that's kind of where I stand with this guy. So the good news is this thing was annoying the snot out of me. I had pulled everything off, got super frustrated with it, and it's just been hanging around, and it's always in my way, and now it's actually serving a purpose. They are reasonably priced, especially for something made in America, so it's one of those things. My 12 bucks now will serve a purpose, and we can go to it for reference, you know, and who knows, maybe this thing will last the longest for me here at the house. We'll have to wait and see. But not a terrible little setup, and again, it's going to take this set, kind of keep them together, and we'll take it from there. So outside of having to like drill these out to fit the pegs, that's about the extent of it. the bucket is back to holding the 1/2-inch shallows until I move them to the cart. I'll stick them in there with these, and then we'll order in one of these green ones, and we'll just plug in the metrics, cover all that stuff when we get to it. But like I said, in the event of these, a little tiny 3.5 will get you going, and just press down and pull the socket out. Or like I said, rip them with pliers. I had breaker bars, not gonna lie. At the start, pry bars I should say, and I was kind of whacking off the first two, and then I got to looking at them once, you know, 2 sockets were off, and I was like, oh hey, I think I could just press that down. Don't believe me? There they are. So yeah, those first 2 were fun, and then I actually use these little flush fastener guys for the others. But yeah, you do you. Have some fun with it. Tear them up, don't tear them up, it's up to you. And I mean, let's face it, they're $16-20 socket sets, so can't really go wrong there. But what I want to know from you, if you have the Pittsburghs, how long have you had them? How do they hold up? What do you use them for? Do you find that they do not hold up and the warranty is too much of an inconvenience for they to be your daily drivers? But as I mentioned, you know, sometimes you shatter the good socket. You know, the good socket's worn down to the point it's non-functional. These come in a pinch, get you by for a day or two before you've got your replacement. Is it a situation where these are thrown in your truck, you know, so you've got them, and if you lose your 15/16 and your 1 1/8, not a big deal. You can go replace them. The whole set's $15, right? So whatever you're doing, make sure to give your experience there, particularly if you've got like time frame and comparisons. Some of you may say, hey, you know, I bought these and I bought a set from X vendor that was, you know, 3 times the price, and these are actually better. All of that is good information. If somebody's looking for the socket sets in this price range, that's going to include a lot of like your Amazon stuff and some of those brands. So if you've used them, good or bad experience, tell people. It will help them out, and that is the end goal here. So like I said though, basically $16 for the shallows, $16 SAE and metric, 32 total overall is what we spent. Got me a free bucket. I'm a happy man. We got these in place. And if this frustrates the snot out of me, we'll eventually go all Ernst or something on them. But at this point in time, I kind of need this, and the pegs particularly, for some other things that I would much rather have there. So that's what we're going to do. That's it. I do hope you enjoyed. Sorry if there was fan noise. My apologies. I was interrupted several times in the making of this video. But I got to get that fan back on because I'm sweating like a dog back here. But yeah. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. Let me know if you have this set, if you have this thing where they just kind of aren't like finished out to fit things. Now, if this was on an MTS or an Ernst, 0 issues, obviously. Came from an Ernst, but for this style, that is not compatible. So, anyway, I'm also curious, like, is your shallow SAE 1/2 inch, does it say 12 or is there that slash in the middle? Let me know that as well, just for research purposes, you know. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Most importantly, I hope you have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I hope that I will catch you back here for more action from the shop.